Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order and call upon Christina to please call the roll call.
Chairman Freeman.
Here.
Representatives Borowski,
Borowski is designation.
Donahue. Here. Fleming,
Designation.
Haddock,
Designation.
Hambidge,
Designation.
Kazim,
Designation.
Madsen,
Designation, but I believe you will be joining us later.
Monroe,
Designation.
Probst,
Designation.
Prokopiak, Salisbury,
Designation.
Sappy,
Designation.
Smith-Waddell.
Designation.
Chairman Miller.
Here.
Representatives Banta,
Designation.
Cooper. Here. Fink. Here. Jones,
Here.
Kozak,
Oops.
Kuzma,
Designation.
Reichard. Here. Rincabbage,
Designation.
Watro,
Designation.
Weakneck. Here. Wentling.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Quorum being in order, we can proceed with the rest of our business. I'd like to call on Chairman Brett Miller to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everyone please rise? You may be seated. Thank you, Chairman Miller. We will now move on to our legislative considerations in the committee today. The first bill that I'd like to call up is House Bill 6. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we do that, we have an announcement of a new addition to staff, and I'd call upon Chairman Miller to make the announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to introduce everyone to our new Executive Director, Kyle Schaefer, and with the happy news that he hails from Lancaster County, the best county. So welcome, Kyle.
Welcome. Thank you for that introduction. We'll move on to our legislative considerations. Our first bill on the agenda is House Bill 661 by Representative Schmidt. I guess I'll call up the bill. Is there a motion to report the bill? Chairman Miller, and I'll call on Kyle, I guess, to give an overview of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 661 by Representative Schmidt amends Title 16 to exempt all classes of counties from bidding for milk contracts. Currently, Title 16 only allows second-class A counties the exemption from bidding for milk contracts. The bill takes effect in 60 days.
Okay, is there any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, are you okay with the voice vote? We'll take a voice vote. All those in favor of the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Bill carries unanimously and will be reported to the floor. That brings us to our next bill, which is House Bill 1119, Representative Probst. And I will call on Mr. Castelli to give a brief overview before we take an action on the bill.
Okay, House Bill 1119, Representative Probst's bill, would allow disabled veterans to receive a property tax exemption proportional to their disability instead of the exemption being for a total disability.
Okay. We have discussed with the prime sponsor that we are going to re-refer this bill with a recommendation to go to the Veterans Affairs and Emergency Preparedness Committee. So I will make that motion now. I don't think we need a second, but thanks. I thank this prime sponsor. So we brought that up. I guess we can just go to a vote. All those in favor of re-referring with a recommendation to Veterans Affairs and Emergency Preparedness, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the bill will be sent to the chair and requested to be re-referred to Veterans Affairs and Emergency Preparedness. That brings us to our third bill, Representative Fleming's bill, House Bill 1308. I will call this bill up and ask for a motion that it be reported from committee. Representative Fleming will make the motion, I suppose. Sounds good. And I'll call upon John for a brief overview before we turn to Representative Fleming for any comments and then discussion.
Okay, House Bill 1308 is Representative Fleming's bill. It would amend Title 27, Environmental Resources, and Title 53, Municipalities Generally, of the Consolidated Statutes with regard to stormwater management. Title 27 would be amended by establishing a new Chapter 33, which would stipulate the following. A municipal corporation or municipal authority may charge or impose fees for stormwater planning, management, and implementation on the Commonwealth and any of its departments, boards, commissions, or instrumentalities for property owned by the Commonwealth and its various agencies and instrumentalities. Further, an entity otherwise exempt from taxation may not be excused from paying stormwater management fees solely based on its tax-exempt status, and it would also add a definition to define the term impervious surface and stormwater. Title 53, Chapter 56, which is the Municipality Authorities Act, would be amended as follows. The bill would clarify that an authority that performs stormwater planning, management, and implementation may charge or impose reasonable and uniform rates to owners of property that benefit from the services in accordance with the following provisions. 1, rates shall be on property contributions to stormwater runoff, including the property's impervious surface as determined by the authority, or the installation and maintenance of on-site best management practices approved and inspected by the authority. And all properties containing an impervious surface are presumed to benefit from an authority's stormwater planning, management, and implementation. Further, stormwater management rates may be charged by one or a combination of the following methods. 1, on all properties located in the service area of the authority. 2, on all properties that are served by or benefit from a specific stormwater project or plan. Or 3, by establishing a stormwater management district and charging the rate on the owners of all of the properties within the district. And finally, it would add a definition for the term impervious surface.
Thank you, Mr. Castelli. Representative Fleming, do you want to make comment before we move on to the amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. So I'm not typically one to file messaging bills, but I have to acknowledge that this bill, we're coming back with it this session, and there's very little chance that this administration will sign this bill. I realize that. I did have the amazing opportunity to go down in September and watch the oral argument of the Borough of Westchester versus Paschy before the Supreme Court. And obviously, I feel a certain way about it, given this bill would compel the Commonwealth to pay its stormwater fees. But I have to say, the case was extraordinarily well argued by both sides. And I acknowledge that the Supreme Court is going to have a tough decision on its hands on the basis of the argument. I think I'm not an attorney. I am not a constitutional scholar by any means, but I do think the Commonwealth Court got it wrong in this case. And this bill that we're coming back with this session seeks to rectify the issue. And to me, the issue is really threefold. I grew up playing baseball, so as the saying goes, 3 strikes, you're out. And I think the government is overreaching in this case. You know, number one, we all want clean air and water. That is absolutely a fact. We all deserve clean air and water. However, some of the regulations that the EPA and DEP have thrust upon municipalities, I do believe are really difficult to comply with and really expensive to comply with. Not only that, they offer very little in the way of assistance, especially in terms of grants and you know, funding that could go to help mitigate these issues. Yes, there's CFA funding, but those are mostly loans. There's some grant component, and you know, to ask municipalities to go into debt to clean up their rivers, creeks, and streams is a really tough ask with absolutely no help. So they're just imposing these regulations with very little help. And then third, the Commonwealth won't pay its own stormwater fee. So not only are you imposing incredibly onerous regulations, but and you offer no help to help residents deal with the issue, you're not even paying the fee yourself. So in triplicate, it's really difficult to really understand how municipalities and residents and why the burden is placed on them solely to do this work, when I believe this is a shared responsibility. So with that, Chairman, I'll turn it back over to you to discuss the amendment. But I urge a yes vote for those reasons. Thank you, Chairman.
Before we move on to the amendment, Representative Probst wanted to make some comment.
I know, I feel like every time I'm in this setting, I always have to say, before being a state rep, I was a former mayor for 7 years of a county seat. Not only is this an issue, but I have to say it on the record, the agencies like PennDOT need to follow the law and the rules as well. Because what happens is, in a lot of these circumstances, PennDOT doesn't care. They don't care what you're doing with MS4 and stormwater, and they find whatever they want to find so that they can do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it to whatever municipality they want to do it to, and they wreck communities. So we have to look at a deeper dive too, because PennDOT needs to start following the law too. Thank you.
I thank the lady. We do have an amendment that Representative or Chairman Brett Miller wishes to bring up. It is Amendment A01021. Did you want Kyle to give a brief overview? Turn to Kyle.
Thank you. Amendment A01021 by Chairman Miller removes the legislative findings section found in the bill.
Representative Miller?
Thank you. Yes, the amendment as was described would take out the legislative findings. Bottom line is this. I don't think that this section is necessary for the functioning of the bill. The bill would function completely fine without it. And then you add a section of complexity to the bill that if situations change, then you have to go back in and change that section as well. But I just don't think it's necessary for the functioning of the bill.
Okay. Representative Fleming. Sorry. Oh, did you? I'll get you next. Representative Fleming.
Thank you. Chairman Miller, would removing the legislative findings section garner support from you and your caucus for the underlying bill?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
It wouldn't hurt. But I can't give any guarantee. I mean, we're talking about the amendment now, so we try to limit our comments to the...
No, and thank you. Honestly, it's an amendment. I hope to have your support, but it's an amendment I'm comfortable with. It is, I think it's, I do believe in the language that's in there, the legislative findings piece. This is an issue that, it's just setting out the facts of the issue as we see them, but I would be amenable to that, certainly, and especially if it would help more of you and your colleagues support the bill. So, Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Riker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Fleming, I agree wholeheartedly with your comments. My issue with the legislative findings is where it says in here specifically reasonable regulations, and DEP has been anything but reasonable throughout this entire process. And I'll give you an example. There is a municipality who is an MS4 in my county, in Franklin County, and DEP has been sounding the alarms for an impaired waterway, an impaired stream. The metric that they are using is that there's no aquatic life in this stream, which is an issue, right? We all want clean waters, we want healthy waters. It turns out upon inspection, it's a dry stream bed. Right, like so. The way that DEP is handling this. I get that the regulations for MS4 were originally written for larger urban areas, but now they're being applied to smaller municipalities that are meeting certain population thresholds, and it's just not matching. It's just not jiving. I can speak for me. I support the rest of the legislation. Actually, I think it should go further. I think DEP should be the ones required to pay these stormwater fees, on behalf of the Commonwealth, since they're the ones that are instigating this whole program. But to the chairman's amendment, that my issue is with the legislative findings. It talks about the reasonable regulations because they are unreasonable, in my opinion. So, Chad Reichert speaking, I would support the legislation with the removal of that, but that's one. So,
Okay. Any other comment on the amendment? Seeing no, we recognize the Representative Salzberg has joined us too. Seeing none, we'll move to the vote. The prime sponsor of the bill has recommended a yes vote. Do we need a roll call? Okay. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment is added and will be part of the bill. We then move on to the bill in chief. The prime sponsor did make comment. Is there any additional discussion on the bill at this time? Representative Madsen.
No, I just want to say, as a recovering Harrisburg City Council member, been looking forward to this day for some time. The city, as folks know, the Commonwealth occupies over 50% of the land in the city, and folks here are using the bathroom and water as much as Harrisburg residents. The median income's $35,000 a year here, with 7% unemployment rate, but due to the Commonwealth not paying its water bill, it's the residents have to make up the difference. And so I think this is just a good thing to do and support from an equity lands point as well. But so thank you.
Point well taken. Any other comments before we take a vote? Chairman Miller.
Thank you. I appreciate the maker of the bill, as you know, is a yes vote last session. This is a difficult area, and of course, all of this hinges upon the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania's finding, or what they determined coming up. There's some hesitation I have after reflection and knowing about that case. We proceed with this, and then we find out that they blow it up with what they do. We have all of that goes with that. So there's part of me that wants to say, why don't we just wait? Having said that, I do think there's, as was described by you and others, that there's this issue that we have of these mandates that come on municipalities, that they just put them in a very difficult position. The one question I have more of late is the issue related to the nonprofits, and that complicates things pretty significantly. I will be a yes today, but I just want to let you know, at least for my part, that that may be a significant consideration if this gets to the floor, because that's a different territory that I think will raise significant concerns in multiple areas. With that, I will be a yes today. I'm not sure about everyone else on my team, but I just want to let you know. So,
I thank the gentleman for his comments. Any other discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Sure.
Thank you, Chairman Miller, and I do appreciate that feedback. I can say as a former Susquehanna Township Commissioner who did vote to impose a stormwater fee on my residents. As we looked at the issue, and my good colleague, Representative Madsen, brought up the point of equity. I know as we looked at it in Susquehanna Township, we wanted to try to be as fair as possible, and that's why we imposed a fee. Because, nonprofits, as you say, nonprofit organizations that do work, churches that are tax exempt, things like that, they all have roofs, they all have parking lots and things. So that impervious surface, that is what we used, calculation of that impervious surface and a calculation there to determine what they would pay in terms of the stormwater fee. So I understand what you're saying, Chairman Miller, and I don't disagree, to be honest, in terms of the impact on nonprofits. But the reason why we spread it out so broadly is to try to lessen the burden on any one class of resident, whether it was, or class of individual residing in the township, whether it was residents, whether it was businesses, and I mentioned this last year, but I'll mention it again because it's worth it. We have a large post office in the district I represent. They pay their stormwater fee. The federal government actually does pay its stormwater fee, but the state government refuses to. And so, we've got that dichotomy right there. So your point is well taken, and I certainly do get it. But as we looked at it in Susquehanna Township, we wanted to make it as broad as possible. So, one So one portion didn't feel as they were being singled out.
Representative Probst.
I agree with Representative Fleming. One of my boroughs, East Stroudsburg, is 72% nonprofit, non-taxed. The hospitals, the schools, the college, they need to pay their fair share at some point. It's ridiculous already. So I support the rep on that one.
Any further comment? Seeing none, let's go to a vote. Do we want a roll call? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote then.
Chairman Freeman.
Yes.
Representatives Borowski,
Yes.
Donahue,
Designation.
Fleming. Yes. Haddock,
Yes, designation.
Hambidge,
Yes, designation.
Kazim,
Yes, designation.
Madsen. Monroe,
Yes, designation.
Probst. Prokopiak. Salisbury. Sappy,
Yes, designation.
Smith Waddell.
Yes, designation.
Chairman Miller.
Yes.
Representatives Banta,
Designation, no.
Cooper. Fink. Jones. Kozak. Kuzma.
Designation, no.
Reichard. Yes. Rincabbage.
Designation, yes.
Watchrow.
Designation, yes.
Weakneck. Wentling.
No.
Eighteen to 8. 18 yeas.
Okay, 18 yeses, 8 nays. The bill will be reported to the committee for further consideration by the floor. This brings us up to House Bill 1532, my legislation. I will make the motion to report the bill from committee and call upon John Castelli to make an overview of the legislation.
Okay, House Bill 1532, Chairman Freeman's prime sponsor, would amend the municipality's planning code to expand the use of specific plans to any municipality and to include residential developments. Presently, the MPC allows for the use of a specific plan when municipalities and/or counties adopt multi-municipal comprehensive plans and an intergovernmental cooperative planning and implementation agreement. And presently, current law stipulates or limits the usage of specific plans to non-residential developments. House Bill 1532 would amend the MPC to authorize individual municipalities to adopt specific plans as part of implementing their comprehensive plans and would authorize their usage for both residential and non-residential developments. Further, when a specific plan is adopted, applicants for subdivision or land development approval shall, 1, participate in a pre-application conference with the planning agency and present a sketch plan on a proposed development permit application, and 2, submit only a final plan that is consistent with the adopted plan. And further, the bill provides that municipalities engaged in a county or multi-municipal comprehensive plan would also be given the authority under the bill to adopt a specific plan for any area, whether residential or non-residential, covered by the comprehensive plan.
Thank you for that overview. I should note that the legislation was recommended by the State Planning Board to expand the ability to use a specific plan beyond the multi-municipal comprehensive plan system to allow municipalities to use them as well, particularly in light of the desire to address the housing shortage that we're experiencing in the Commonwealth. With that, we do have a series of amendments. I would like to call up my amendment, First Amendment A01043, and ask John to give a brief overview.
Okay, Amendment A 01043, offered by Chairman Freeman. The amendment provides for the following. 1, it clarifies that a specific plan shall include the enumerated provisions contained in the bill, rather than making the inclusion of such provisions optional on the part of the municipality. 2, it would remove the language housing densities for households of various income levels from being included among the standards relating to residential uses in specific plans. And 3, it would add language to stipulate that the housing standards component of a specific plan may include the availability of affordable or below-market housing.
Okay, thank you, John. Just a quick note, I know that Representative Miller and I had discussions on the bill the other day, and that he has an amendment which is similar. We took into consideration numerous aspects to his amendment and applied them. In particular, I think it's important to keep the enumerated points that have to be followed. Initially, we thought that not having them as a shall provision would give flexibility, but I think it is important that we have them as a guide towards the adoption of any specific plan. So we are restoring that, and they have to be followed as shall provisions. I heard his concerns about the housing density language on households of various income, so we removed that and replaced it with a may provision. And it is a may provision, it's not a mandatory provision, that would allow housing standards to address the issue of affordability and below-market housing as a possibility. Let me see if I touched on anything else. I think that pretty much covers what we've done in the amendment, but I will open it up to discussion at this point. Chairman Miller.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your looking into this amendment and taking into consideration the ideas that I have referenced in some of the amendments that I've offered, both individually and as a collection. I note that my amendment 970 is covered in the amendment and 1019 is covered in the amendment. And I appreciate the efforts on 967 in the attempts to cover the amendment, but my amendment was to remove that section because I still think we run the risk of inclusionary zoning allegations, even if it's a may provision. And so for that reason, I will respectfully be referencing a no, even though it's bittersweet because some of the things that I want are in there and some are not. But so I will be recommending a no vote.
I thank the gentleman for his comments. Just again, to reiterate, the language was changed on the housing provision to make it a may provision to include availability of affordable or below market housing in the housing standards. As a may provision, no municipality or municipality that's part of a multi-municipal plan would have to include that, but it would be a direction to consider it, particularly since one of the impetuses behind the legislation is to address the housing affordability and housing availability issue in the Commonwealth. And I don't think that that would necessitate inclusionary zoning, although inclusionary zoning in one form or another has been held up in other parts of the state and the country as well as being appropriate. But again, it's only a may provision and one that I think gives a good directive. So with that, I would urge a yes vote on the amendment and would welcome any other comments the members might have before we proceed to a vote. No? Okay. I take it you want a vote, a roll call. We'll take a roll call vote.
Chairman Freeman.
Yes.
Representatives Borowski. Donahue. Yes. Fleming. Yes. Haddock.
Yes designation.
Hambidge.
Yes designation.
Kazim.
Yes designation.
Madsen. Yes. Monroe.
Yes designation.
Probst. Prokopiak. Designation.
Oh, I thought he was here. I'm sorry. Yes designation.
Salisbury. Sappy.
Yes designation.
And Smith-Waddell.
Yes designation.
Chairman Miller.
No.
Representatives Banta. No. Cooper. No. Fink. No. Jones. No. Kozak. No. Kuzma.
Designation no.
Reichard. No. Rinkavage.
Designation no.
Wattrow.
Designation no.
Weakneck. No. Wentling. No. 14 yeas, 12 nays.
Okay, the vote is 14-12, and the amendment will be added to the bill. That leads us to the other amendments. At this time, I believe Amendment A00967 is no longer in order since that language was removed. So we'll skip over that one. You do have an Amendment A00968, removing the word intensity. Would you like that one brought up? Okay. Mr. Miller brings up Amendment A00968 for consideration, and did you want Kyle to give an overview?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Amendment A00968 by Chairman Miller amends the bill to strike out the word intensity from the list of items that a specific plan may specify.
Oh, I am reminded that Representatives Borowski and Haddock have joined the meeting, so we thank them for their attendance. Mr. Miller, do you care to make comment?
Yes, thank you. Candidly, it's a small matter. The section here says the distribution, location, intensity, extent of the area, standards, et cetera, et cetera. I couldn't figure out what an intensity meant. None of the folks that we consulted with understood what that meant, and it's a simple matter. I understand density. I'm not sure what intensity is, and so for that matter, I wanted to bring it up because I didn't know what it meant and didn't think it really applied to anything in or helped the bill in any case. So,
I appreciate the gentleman's comments. I believe intensity was to try and get into the thick of the issue as far as how intense the development would be under the provisions. But I don't think it's an absolutely necessary word to have in the bill. We later on under Standard 3, we talk about intensity of housing densities. Oh, I'm sorry, not that. Building intensity, rather, which does use a definition of the nature of intensity. So I think that probably covers it. That being the case, be happy to support the amendment. Any other comments?
No.
Seeing none, you okay with the voice vote? We'll take a voice vote. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the amendment will be added to the bill. That brings us to Amendment A00970, and that pretty much has been covered, I believe, by my amendment. So
that's right. So, yeah, withdraw that.
okay.
And 1019 also withdraw.
Okay, that's withdraw, which leaves you with 1033. Oh, that's your comprehensive one, so that's probably withdrawn as well. Sorry. And that covers all of them. Then it leaves us with the bill in chief. Any? Oh,
Wait,
yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I made an error. 1043, I do want to, or 33 rather, I do want to withdraw.
Okay.
Because, but 1019, I would like to be considered because, yeah, I'll wait for later, but.
Okay. Yeah, let me just make sure I have a copy of that in front of me. Oh, okay. See the amendment. Kyle, did you want to give an overview?
Amendment A01019 amends the bill to ensure that both individual municipalities and multiple municipalities in conjunction can all adopt specific plans.
Okay. Yeah, there is another provision which also would change from participating municipal, or remove a municipality, I believe, which was in the language, and revert to participating municipality. In regard to that specific issue, I did want to note the Statutory Construction Act does clarify that the singular shall include the plural and the plural the singular. So using a municipality also would imply participating municipalities as well under the Statutory Construction Act. And it may be somewhat confusing to say participatory municipalities, particularly in regard to a single municipality utilizing the Specific Plan Act, which is provided for in the bill. So that might pose some confusion. The other aspect of the amendment is that I believe your language is touched on in the text. I'm just trying to find the location. Right, which is more or less here. Yeah, under Section 308. Section 308 stipulates that under municipal specific plan, a municipality shall have authority to adopt a specific plan for the systematic implementation of any portion of the municipality's own comprehensive plan. A specific plan shall meet the requirements of and have the legal effects specified in Section 1106, referring to specific plans. So I think that aspect is actually covered in the bill, and I'll be happy to defer to the gentleman for comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I still, I guess, in my estimation, if the bill clearly says, in the current bill, despite the section that you referenced there, clearly says a municipality. And the former section on page 3 discusses, let me find it here, participating municipalities. That's struck and replaced with a municipality. My amendment would say basically participating municipalities and a municipality, designating that an individual municipality could do it on their own should they want. They don't have to be part of municipalities. Or would it nullify current municipalities that are already engaged in a multi-municipal arrangement? So to me, it's just clearer. I'd still like to offer it, and don't think it detracts from the bill or takes anything away from it. So just a clarity provision.
Okay. Keep in mind, too, that with the language of the bill, it in no way affects the formation and operation of a multi-municipal plan. That stays intact. That's an agreement between municipalities that stays in place. And this would only pertain to, again, municipality by the Statutory Construction Act. Using the term a municipality, a singular shall include the plural, and the plural shall include the singular. So again, I really don't see the need for participating municipalities. The other issue is that again, I think we're duplicating language we already have in Section 308, but we do have Chris Ghazi with us. Did you want to give some highlighted thoughts on the issue of participating municipality versus municipality? Oh.
I'm happy to answer any questions, but I largely agree with how you presented it, that as a matter of the Statutory Construction Act, I believe it's covered already. It's just making clarity that single municipality is contemplated with the new language from Article 3. And there is already a cross-reference in the underlying language within that section in Chapter 11 to a comp plan under Chapter 3, which is intended to be the cross-reference to the language that you read from Chapter 3. So I'm obviously not here to take a side on the amendment itself, but I think that it's clear as drafted.
Okay. And I might note that Mr. Ghazi did assist in the drafting of the proposal, so we appreciate his thoughts. Again, I do believe that second part is covered. So, but
Well, with that clarification, then I will withdraw the amendment.
okay, and perhaps we can visit it for an amendment on the floor that we can talk about. Okay, that. Oh, and Representative Sappi has joined us. Thank you. Okay, that covers our amendments. The issue then. The amendment is withdrawn, and I thank the gentleman for withdrawing. I will be happy to have further conversations if he wishes to pursue possible mandatory language. That brings us to the bill in chief. All those, well, I guess we'll take a roll call vote.
Yeah, comment.
Sure. Chairman Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I I was prepared to become a yes on this bill, but because of the insertion of the amendment with what I believe is problematic language about inclusionary zoning, I know we have a disagreement there. I will unfortunately be a no vote and urge a no vote because of that, but otherwise I would have been a yes. So, thank you.
I thank the gentleman for the comments. And just again to reiterate, I don't believe it really is inclusionary zoning because it's a may provision. It's not a dictate. And if it were inclusionary zoning, that would not necessarily be something illegal or inappropriate. It just gets them to utilize the issue of affordable housing, which is one of the chief reasons the bill was proposed. But that being said, is there any other discussion or comment? Okay, seeing none, I guess we'll take a roll call.
Chairman Freeman.
Yes.
Representatives Borowski. Donahue. Yes. Fleming. Yes. Haddock. Yes. Hambidge.
Designation yes.
Kazim.
Designation yes.
Madsen. Yes. Monroe.
Designation yes.
Probst. Prokopiak.
Designation yes.
Salisbury. Yes. Sappy. Smith Waddell.
Designation yes.
Chairman Miller.
No.
Representatives Banta. No. Cooper. No. Fink. Jones. No. Kozak. No. Kuzma.
Designation no.
Reichard. No. Rinkavage.
Designation no.
Watro.
Designation no.
Weakneck. No. Wentling. No. 1412.
Okay, the bill is reported at a vote of 14-12. That brings us to our final piece of legislation for today, House Bill 1560, which I call up for consideration. And is there a motion to report the bill made by Representative Salisbury to report the bill? Call upon John for a brief overview before we get to the amendments.
Okay, House Bill 1560, sponsored by Representative Salisbury, would establish the Municipal Grant Assistance Program within the Department of Community and Economic Development to provide financial assistance to municipalities to obtain grant writing services and to develop training to instruct municipal employees and officials how to develop projects, find grant application opportunities, and apply for grants. Under the bill, to be eligible for a grant to obtain grant writing services, a municipality may not have an employee whose primary responsibility is grant writing and must meet one of the following qualifications. One, must have adopted or implemented an active strategic planning plan, or have adopted or implemented a recovery plan, exit plan, or receivership plan under Act 47, which is the Municipalities Financial Recovery Act. Or two, have at least 25% of all census tracts within the municipality have been designated as low-income census tracts. And under the legislation, DCED is authorized to create the program within existing departmental municipal technical assistance programs in whole or in part. Also, the bill would establish the Municipal Grant Assistance Program Fund, which would be established within the Treasury, State Treasury, and would consist of funding which is appropriated or on a continuing basis to the department for the purposes of the Act. And the bill stipulates that administrative expenses of the program may be paid wholly or in part from the fund. DCED would be authorized to develop guidelines for the implementation and administration of the program within 90 days of the effective date of the Act. And finally, the Local Government Commission would be required to provide a report to the General Assembly on the funding and effectiveness of the program within 5 years of the effective date of the Act.
Before we proceed further, Chairman Miller wanted to make a clarification on the last roll call vote to 1532. Chairman Miller.
Thank you. I had incorrectly reported on Representative Kuzma's vote. He wanted to be a yes on 1532.
So
sorry for the error.
Oh, that's quite all right. Thank you for the clarification. That makes the vote 15-11 as far as reporting the bill to the floor. Returning now to House Bill 1560, Representative Salisbury, do you wish to make some comment on the bill in chief?
Yes, thank you. I introduced a form of this bill last session. We passed it through the House, and I am happy to reintroduce it with Representative Kuzma as a co-prime this this session. Unfortunately, he had an engagement in his district that prevented him from being here today. But essentially, the issue that I've encountered is an inequity problem with low-income communities, whether they're in somewhat urban areas, such as the one that I represent, or rural areas. I've been provided with the assistance, which I'm very grateful for, from the Center for Rural Pennsylvanians, as well as the Local Government Commission in working on this bill. Really, what I'm trying to resolve is that different communities really have different means of accessing the state funding that we deploy here in our budget. So I undertook a study in my own district. I represent 13 different municipalities, and I took a 14-year spread of, I asked the state to put together a list of every grant from the state that was provided to a municipality in my district over a 14-year period of time. And so then we took a 2010 and 2020 census and averaged those out because we're experiencing significant population loss. So we wanted to account for an average of those two censuses. When we figured out a per capita payment of grant funding from the state to the municipalities in my district, we determined that depending on which district you lived in, the state either spent $155 on you during that period or $755 on you. So that's a pretty significant spread of $600 per person, depending on which municipality you lived in. When I looked at the socioeconomic demographics of these municipalities in my district, it was what you might expect. The wealthier communities were getting the larger grant awards, and the lower income communities were getting little to nothing most years. When I spoke with the borough managers, the council presidents, the mayors, what I found is that many of these low income municipalities had little to no ability to seek, apply for, manage grants. So they just went without because they didn't have money to get money. So what I want to make sure that we're doing when we're awarding these competitive grant awards out from the state is that we're giving everybody an equal effort. We're giving everybody an opportunity. And what I think that this legislation does is it's not just handing out things to people. It's really teaching a man to fish, if you will. It instructs people on how to do better going forward so that you're instructing the municipality and their employees and their elected officials on how to seek these grants, how to apply for these grants, how to manage them, how to make this happen going forward so that you're helping them compete just as much as with a wealthy community to access these. When I've gone across the state having conversations with local government elected officials, whether it was in Cambria County or Allegheny County, any number of places, Erie County, a lot of places are telling me that they're really struggling to figure out how to apply for these grant programs. So this is something that Representative Kuzma and I believe would benefit a lot of municipalities across the state by giving them the education that they need in order to be competitive for these grant programs. So I would appreciate your support on this bill.
I thank the representative for their comments, her comments. Yeah, I think this is a very good concept, a very good idea. I know there's a lot of small municipalities that do lose out when it comes to applying for grants, in part because they don't have matching money, like you mentioned, or in part because they have limited, if any, staff to be able to pursue. So this would be a great assistance to a lot of our municipalities across the Commonwealth. Mr. Castelli asked me to point out two different things, too, regarding it. One that part of it is to help with the grant writing, but part of it is also training, and the training would be available to everyone in that regard. Are there any comments on the bill in chief before we move on to the amendments? Oh, Representative Sabi.
Thank you, Chairman. I love this bill. I supported it last term and will again today, but I think it helps exactly who you're talking about, Representative. I've got a borough in my district, and I have other townships that don't have a manager, as you just mentioned. They don't have the staff. They have a secretary, or they don't have anybody. They do not have anyone that can write these grants and really help them identify available funding. So they are going, this funding we've all voted on to make available is not really available equitably across the board. And the impact of that is, infrastructure, upgrades, playgrounds, you name it, park and rec, everything suffers. The community then starts to go down, and at some point, are we looking at them, in Act 47? So I think, helping them learn how to fish, as she said, I think is just, wonderful. And again, strongly support this effort.
Points are all well taken, too. There can be a downward spiral. You don't have the money to apply for grants or to match. You don't have the staff to do it. You miss out on grants, and you continue to decline as a municipality. So this is a way to stem that, prevent them from getting into Act 47, and to give them a leg up. So I think it's a good proposal. We do have, if there's no more comments on the bill in chief at this time, we do have 2 amendments being proposed by Chairman Miller. Are you okay taking the first one up?
I'm going to withdraw them both.
Oh, you are? Okay. Chairman Miller has graciously agreed to withdraw both amendments, so we are on the bill in chief. And are there any other further points or discussion regarding the bill in chief? Oh, sure. Representative Haddock.
Just a clarification. I noticed in the bill itself there is a 5-year window where a report has to be created on the success of the program. But I didn't interpret that as an outright sunset of the program. Is it for evaluation purposes rather than could you clarify that? Is it an evaluation period or is it a pure sunset clause? I wasn't sure.
So I come from a nonprofit background, nonprofit administration, and we always like to say that nothing is worth doing if it's not worth measuring. So I like to have data. As I said, I did this whole retrospective study in my own district. I like to find out whether things are actually working. So to me, that is a mechanism where we can be told if this is working, if it needs to be retooled in some way, and that would provide an opportunity for that. But it wouldn't sunset the program, no.
Any other comments or questions? Do you want a roll call? Yes. Okay. We'll take a roll call vote.
Chairman Freeman.
Yes.
Representatives Borowski. Donahue. Fleming. Haddock. Hambidge.
Designation yes.
Kazim.
Designation yes.
Madsen. Monroe.
Designation yes.
Probst. Prokopiak.
Designation yes.
Salisbury.
Yes.
Sappy. Smith Waddell.
Designation yes.
Chairman Miller.
No.
Representatives Banta. No. Cooper. No. Fink.
No.
Jones. Kozak. Kuzma.
Vote by designation, yes.
Reichard. No. Rinkavage.
No. Vote by designation, no.
Watro.
By designation, no.
Weakneck. No. Wentling.
No.
1511.
Okay, the vote is 15-11. The bill will be reported to the floor for consideration. That concludes the bills on our agenda. Any other business anyone wishes to bring up before we adjourn? If not, I thank you all for your attendance today and for your participation. This meeting of the House Local Government Committee stands adjourned.